My name's Jed. I play
Hi.
sports, so I play basketball. I wanted to know how to deal with anxiety with sports and feeling down on yourself and stuff like that.
When I was at Chelsea for 6 years. And as I said, I was a striker, so there's a lot of pressure on strikers to score goals. Um, and I had a lot of anxiety actually through failure. And the best way I dealt with it was to just say to myself, okay, if I fail or if I don't score, if I don't win, what's the worst that's going to happen? And I literally would write it down, like what are literally the worst things that are going to happen? Okay, people are going to say I lost, or people are going to maybe say bad things about my team, but I'm still going to be a good footballer. I'm still going to be someone who's done things, good things before, and can do good things after. And I think when I let go of that fear and that pressure, I was able to go into the game, enjoy it for what it was, give my best, because literally that's all you can do. All you can do is give your best. The rest you can't really control. I think a lot of our anxiety comes from worrying about things that we can't control. So you've got to zoom in on what you can control, but also to the things you can't control, just be like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen anyway? No one's going to die. And you'll see that it frees you a lot in terms of that pressure on your head in terms of sport.
There's a few, yeah.
Hi, my name is Joshua, and I produce and write music in my free time. But I was just wondering, how is it that you maintain your sense of purpose when you go to create?
For me, the way I do it, I'm not saying that everyone should do it like this, but my approach is counterintuitive. So I just believe I have no purpose, and I'm doing it because I just enjoy doing it. And whatever comes from that, comes from that. Do you know what I mean? I think when you feel like you have a purpose, you become very hard on yourself. You start to worry that you're not doing things in time. Your time's going to run out. Is this person doing it better than I'm doing it? When you just believe that this is all, end of the day, this sounds nihilistic, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, but I'm doing it because I enjoy it, and I enjoy reading back what I've written, I think, or what I've recorded. Do you know what I mean?
I'm a Christian, so for me, I'm prayerful and I believe a lot in having a God-given purpose, and that for me always keeps me going. I feel like I'm doing exactly what God wants me to be doing right now. So I keep that in mind because I know that when things work out and it leads to the next thing that works out and it leads to the next thing that works out, that I'm on the right track.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Isak. So this is a question for Chelsea and Ori. So at the beginning, you were talking about how English wasn't your speciality, you weren't really good at it, but you managed to write a book. And obviously in modern day society, education is the key for a lot of things. But I was wondering, what advice do you give to someone that's trying to look for an alternative route, because they might not be as academic as they should be, if that makes sense?
I think if you feel like you're not super academic, I don't think that's the end of the world, because I feel like I know a lot of people who weren't very academic when they were at school either, but have still found things that they're super passionate about and have found things that have made them happy, and that they feel like they are gifted in and tapped into the gifts that they do have. I don't think we can expect everyone to be super academic. Me not being good at English, I was good at other stuff though, so I'm not gonna lie and be like I wasn't academic.
I went to Cambridge, man, come on.
Yeah, so but I'm just saying, I don't think you have to be academic to be doing amazing things, to be breaking down barriers, to be using your voice, to be super confident. I think it's just about finding what it is that you are good at, finding what your gifts actually are. I might have been rubbish at English as a lesson, but I clearly have some kind of way with words, just not quite in the way that my curriculum allowed me to. And that's okay, but I just found that, and it took me going to uni and finishing uni to find that, yeah, English as a subject might not have been my thing, but I have a thing with words. People who sing, people who rap also love words. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be great at English. So it's not always just about the academy and what's academic. You can have gifts and talents and passions outside of that as well. Great question.
Can I just add to that as well? Just for me personally, quite similar to Stormzy, I was kicked out of sixth form, and then I just started working. I went to university when I was 24, and yeah, exactly. But that was the time that I was ready to go. And when I got to uni, I didn't know how to write. I didn't know what a semicolon was when I got to uni. I'd never read a book cover to cover, And then when I did read a book, I read a short story by D.H. Lawrence, and that just kickstarted everything. And then I realized that I really love English literature. And I'm 31 now, I've read every single day since I read that first short story by D.H. Lawrence. So it's also just about not feeling like you're in a rush to find out what it is you're good at. In secondary school, I was terrible at English. Now I go back to my secondary school and I talk to my old English teacher about books, and we analyze the books and we critique them and so on and so forth. But I couldn't do that when I was 16. So sometimes it just takes time for you to find out what it is that you're really good at.
I totally agree with everything that was just said. I think beyond that as well, there's also cultural pressures. As a Nigerian, British Nigerian, my whole thing was like, girls don't play football, both in England and in Nigeria. You know, I had to lie for the longest time to my grandma that I played tennis because it was more acceptable for girls to play tennis. So there's also cultural pressures, and I'm sure everyone in this room will have some sort of cultural expectation one way or another. And I think a lot of the common cultural expectations, certainly in African cultures, is become a doctor, a lawyer, pharmacist, chemist, engineer. That's it. Anything outside of that, it's almost like that's not the path for you. But if you look at some of the people that have succeeded, you know, who've become amazing in their fields, writers, musicians, whiz kids, all these people, they had to break out of those molds. So I think you've got to be brave enough as well to kind of be like, no, this is my talent, this is my gift, and just go for it. That gift, that's your superpower, man. Like, seriously.
Yeah. I think for me, I've actually been lucky to be able to do both as well. So maybe don't look at it as a binary of having to, you have to do this and you have to choose this. I'm going to become a solicitor, but then I also have, you know, the book on the side and this kind of public profile, but I've found a way for them to mesh together, and actually it works really well. So maybe explore ways in which you can kind of do both at the same time, if you have the opportunity to. Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Oriliwa. When failure came about, how did you overcome it?
I actually don't deal with failure very well, but for me, like, changing how I see failure has been very important for me. So I don't see it as failure anymore. I see it as like a redirection. So every law job that I didn't get gave me room to apply for things that I loved. It took however many law job rejections to give me the courage to tell my dad that I'm not doing this law thing anymore. It took all those law job rejections and all that kind of being in that really low point to write my first ever article, which is what inspired me to go to journalism school. So I don't see it as a failure anymore, because I'm like, every single thing that I've seen as a failure has happened for a reason, and it's led me to something else. I wanted to go to LSE so badly, like, and they rejected me, and I thought my whole world had shattered, only to find out that I was going to get accepted to Cambridge the next day. So like, it's all like, change how you see it. Like, it's not failure, it's a redirection. So yeah, I hope that's answered your question.
Everything she said.
Yeah. So for me, failure is like getting like really bad reviews about my book. So if I do see a bad review, what I do is, my favorite book is The Great Gatsby. I go and look at the negative reviews of The Great Gatsby and think, if people thought this book was rubbish, why would they not think my book is rubbish? Because I think that book is the greatest book ever written. And then I feel better about myself. So in a sense, I look at other people's failures to make sense of my own, which sounds negative, but it's not really.
As Ore said, failures are redirections massively. I know it sounds like a quote on Instagram, but it really is. Like, you got to see it that way, because you don't know where you're going to end up. And I think when I started to see it that way too, it counterintuitively, you probably fail less because you're not fearful. There's so much fear. If anyone can go on YouTube later, go and look at Will Smith's videos on fear, like, you know, conquering fear, because everything on the other side of that fear is amazing. Once you conquer that fear of failure, you enjoy life so much more, because it's like, well, this is not an obstacle anymore. It's just something that I can try. If it doesn't work out, okay, I do something different. Because a lot of the time we don't realize how multidimensional we are. We don't have to do one thing. We can do so many other things and be redirected, as you said. So you got to find your own way of like conquering that failure that you feel.